Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to the Powercat Podcast. Fitz and Gills, and this week we got the Big B man sitting in for Cole because we're doing this during the daytime when he's doing his real job, soccer. And we get to sit around and talk sports. Oh, I love off weeks. Gills, what are you doing this weekend? You just going to hang out and sleep? And
yeah, it's been good, man. I got up at 7:30 and I grabbed my phone. I keep my phone in the kitchen, right? Because I don't want to catch those rays while I'm sleeping, right? I grabbed my phone, I went back into bed and just messed around on my phone for like 2 hours. It was awesome. So
Big B, did that sound like porn? It sounded like he was looking at porn. Messed around on my phone for 2 hours.
100%. 100%.
Good for you, young man. Live that life. Live that life. It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, and I have a new roof. We were supposed to do this yesterday, but the roofers chose yesterday to hammer all day long. So I was able to sneak in. Big B, I went back and watched our Big 12 Insider show.
Mm-hmm.
I was astonished to find out that no noise bled through, and you could hear it in the studio pretty well. So
yeah, it was good. I didn't hear any of it yesterday. Not one time.
Yep. And so that was good. But you will hear everything on this podcast, including Ryan Gilbert asking the questions here in a second after I remind you that we're sponsored by the Fridge Wholesale Liquor. It's been a long relationship. We love having the Fridge on board. Make sure you stop into the Fridge whenever you're in town and have party needs. They're like a big box store of booze and party. It's not a big box store. It's an old Blockbuster. Kids, if you don't know what that is, ask your parents. Now your questions from Wabash Station. Ryan Gilbert.
First question is from El Camino Cat. What does K-State need to do to win the bye week?
I would say they just need to get healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, just like anybody, just get healthy during the bye week. You're always going to they're going to work a ton of fundamentals. They're going to work some Colorado stuff too. They're probably going to work a couple of different teams, but get healthy and that's it.
Yeah, I agree. And get prepared. I mean, I feel like this program as of late, I think Coach Kleiman's 1-4 in games after off weeks, which is disturbing. Not a good indicator of a performance at Colorado. They haven't been good on the road this year. So they really absolutely need to lock in. And I feel like they come out of off weekend sluggish, and they can't do that. The leadership of this team needs to make sure there's plenty of energy and practice and focus on what is emerging as a really good Colorado team. A Colorado team that seems to have put some things together at UCF that we hadn't seen from them. So this obstacle in K-State's road got much more difficult to get by, and they better be ready for it because you can't half-ass the game after a bye week at home, let alone on the road with the way this team's performed on the road. They need to change some things about their personality of recent seasons and this season in going out and facing teams on their home field. They need to solve that. Don't ask me how. I really don't know how to do that because I've never coached football, but it can be done. We've seen it. Winning after bye weeks has happened at K-State. So just tweak whatever you're doing. Do something different. Like mix up your Gatorade flavors. I don't know. Big B, you're a former player. Would a Gatorade flavor affect your performance? A flavor?
No.
Okay.
And to be honest, I didn't even like Gatorade while I was during playing. Give me the water. It's too hot. Just give me some water.
Yeah, it was the early Gatorade. No, they didn't have blue raspberry. So how are you supposed to play without that? Gil's, your thoughts?
Guys, I'd be curious to go through and look. I don't have it, but last year it was Oklahoma State on the road after the bye, right? Chris Kleiman hasn't been great on the road in the last couple of seasons. The year before that, it was TCU on the road after the bye where, Martinez got hurt and then Howard got banged up and like Rubley was in for a few series or whatever. But I don't know if they're all road losses, but maybe it's just more of a road thing than a bye week thing. It could be, it could not be, but Kleiman, do whatever you have to do to win, coming out of the bye, so that this sort of discussion or debate, what have you, isn't being brought up year after year around his bye. But Big B, you mentioned it, getting healthy. It's not about guys like Uso or Braden Lofton, like just the bumps and bruises associated with play that we don't know anything about, right? Like that's every player to just get fresh and reset. It's less about the guys who actually have real big injuries. It's more about the guys who just need some time to heal from their little bruises and stuff like that. So to have two of them in 1 year is unique, but this first one, it's interesting time, man, with Colorado coming up next week for sure.
Hey, Gills, check your mic. I'm not sure your mic is your audio selection, but everything you said was brilliant. It just sounded like it was through the MacBook speakers. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how they fix this. I'm not sure if it's anything more than chance that they haven't played well. Maybe they played tough teams, and maybe I can't explain how a team that's typically very prepared isn't prepared after bye weeks. It doesn't make sense to me. So, maybe they'll win the next 6 of them. Who knows?
Right.
Okay.
So I don't know. I think it's a little different. I agree with both of you on what you're saying. But it just comes down to I think Gills, you're kind of right. It's more of a road thing and just not winning these games. I don't know. But you got to come out of your bye week. I mean, that's what it's for, to get healthy. And again, not, hey, I not blew out a knee, but I tore a ligament or tore cartilage. That guy coming back. It's, hey, man, my ankle is sore or my arm is sore. Oh, man, I've got this bruised elbow that give me 10 days of not going up and beating on somebody. It feels a lot better. That's the thing that we got to really get out of this. And then to move forward, yeah, I just think it's more of a mindset, Fitz. It's just a mindset. Go out and win a football game, man.
Gilbert's mic was somehow unplugged. So I apologize.
That makes sense.
I sound better now, yeah?
Oh, you do. You do. Actually, kind of liked it better when I couldn't hear you very well. Okay, let's move on, Gills.
Next question is from H. Ema and Rockabilly Dancer. What has been the biggest surprise with the team, as well as the biggest disappointment so far?
I think that the disappointment has been how they perform on the road. Chris Kleiman teams aren't typically prone to being awful on the road. This team's awful on the road. I mean, they found a way to win at Tulane. I'll give them that. But I think we can agree Tulane was a better team for much of that game. And K-State found a way. And then they just had the meltdown at BYU, which in many ways was an aberration because of all the things that went wrong in a short period of time in kind of a bizarre way, particularly that punt return. But that's their biggest weakness. The thing that bugs me about this team. And I'll be honest, I think they're better defensively in some areas than I thought. I think they're really good in man, and I think that's going to carry them a long ways. And I think that's been a pleasant surprise how good they are in man. It's also kind of weird how bad they are in zone. But defensively, I've been really pleased with this team.
I think you're kind of right, Fitz. They've been bad on the road. Here's the thing with that, though. We've got to be careful on fixing this road thing, because the signs of a good team are teams that go on the road and win.
Right.
K-State hasn't done that. I mean, they did it against Tulane, but some better competition. Let's see what happens. And that's the sign of a good team. Let's go win some games on the road, because if you can't do that, then how good can you be? And I think this team is a really good team. But other than that, I would say kind of what you said, Fitz. I'm still disappointed in the defensive secondary. Regardless on whether we're really good in man or not, we're awful in zone coverage. Not hey, we're okay, not we're bad. We are awful. And whether it's communication problems or not getting the call, whatever it is, it's awful, and it's got to be fixed. Especially against Colorado, you got to figure that out. I go, because they'll just throw the ball over your head and they'll just be doing wind sprints up and down the football field. But what I DJ Giddens is for me, guys.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he gets talked about enough. I think he's one of the better running backs in this country, and I don't think enough people are saying it. I've been saying it for 2 years. The guy's a pro. I'm not saying he's a first-round draft pick, but he ain't no fifth-round draft pick. I can assure you of that. He's a pro. He can catch. He can run. I get it. He's not a 4-3 guy, but nobody caught him the other day. On the big long run, nobody did that. I'm just saying, I think I knew he would be good. I think he's better than what everybody maybe anticipated that he would be.
Agreed.
Guys, neither of you went wideouts for biggest disappointment. I mean, we all got our hopes up. We're guilty of it, but
It's true.
it's disappointing. That's the best way to describe how that group has been. Certainly hoping that the Oklahoma State performance can be a step in the right direction and maybe catapult them into some good games into the thick of Big 12 play. But throw that out. I mean, it took them 5 games for the wideouts to have a single touchdown. And so as far as surprise, man, like Big B, you're 100% correct, but the expectation I think was there, maybe not nationally around the Big 12, but for us covering K-State, nobody's really surprised by DJ Giddens, or at least I'm not. And so for a specific player, man, up until Coach Tui late in the summer mentioned Damian Alalio's name, like nobody was expecting him. He hasn't been a difference maker, but he's done a lot more than we've thought. And with Uso going down, if you were to tell me that you're going to lose Uso for at least a few weeks or whatever before the season, you'd tell me that, like, there'd be a lot of concern. But with the way Damian's playing and some of the depth behind him, sure, it's a blow, but it's not going to be something that's going to be a game changer. And so the defensive line, obviously the interior and outside have all been solid. But again, I think we all kind of Brendan Mott, right? Like, is he a surprise? I mean, we've kind of known what he's capable of, right? He's been in the program for so long. And maybe one more guy, I know I'm kind of just ranting off names here, but Austin Romaine has turned things around from the way that he played maybe towards the latter half of last season. And so he's been a surprise. He's been one of K-State's biggest splash players on defense.
Agreed.
The wide receiver thing, I guess we can be disappointed in it, but I'll be honest, I think it's more scheme than maybe it is them. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some guys that we think should be doing more, but I think it's a little bit more scheme, and we're not scheming them and maybe puts them in the best position to succeed, So we saw a little bit more of that against Oklahoma State. I think it's more of the offensive play calling that isn't giving them enough opportunities to kind of do the things that they do. Now, you can say maybe they're not getting open or whatever the case may be, but I think you gotta open some more things up and allow Avery to do some more stuff over the middle, and to let those wide receivers do stuff over the middle. I get it. There's some guys, and we don't need to go into name bashing or anything, that aren't doing their job. And to me, they shouldn't be getting many more snaps. It's just that simple. We're trying to win football games, and if you can't catch up or get up to speed, it is what it is. But I think it's a lot of scheme stuff that we got to start helping the guys maybe call some stuff more to their skill strength to allow them to be better. And again, you're right, Gills. We saw a lot more of that against Oklahoma State. Let's hope it continues.
You're right, Big B. And also with Kleiman, this is not the first time his wideouts have been underperforming. And so scheme and all that play calling and stuff, at the end of the day, that falls on the head coach, right? And so maybe it's more of a Kleiman thing than the players themselves issue.
Yeah, could be.
Next question from Mountain Joe. I didn't hear anybody yelling for more touches for Dylan Edwards this week. What's up? Maybe coaches know what they are doing.
He got a lot of touches. That's what's up.
I was going to say, I think he got several, but I still think that he could get more. They could still put him in some more situations. But no, I don't think anybody said that the coaches don't know what they're doing. But having said that, they gave him more touches. So what? I mean, I don't think anybody's asking for him to get 20 to 25 touches a game. Nobody's ever said that, but he definitely got more, and he was in better position, better situations. So when they do it, there's nothing for you to complain about.
Right. He had 8 carries, and granted, he wasn't highly effective. He only had 22 yards, but he was a shoestring tackle away from breaking
On
one.
twice, Fitz, twice.
Yeah, that's right, twice. And he was targeted 4 times in the throwing game. He had 2 catches, so that's 12. That's up.
Yeah.
And honestly, as he had limited effect in this game, and he still got 12. So I wonder if he had broken a few runs or done something in the passing game, if he would have gotten even more touches in that contest. But they're finding a way to use him. The thing about it is, I just want him on the field because you have to account for him, and they do a good job when he's out there alone, and not with DJ. They do a great job of defenses of finding him. But if you put DJ and Avery on the field with him, you got to pick your poisons, and it's that's what I really want to see, and maybe that's something they will emphasize in this game. I can't imagine they won't give Dylan Edwards lots of opportunities at Colorado. I would give him the ball often because he is going to be highly motivated in this contest.
Well, not just highly motivated, the way that Colorado plays a lot of man coverage, even with linebackers covering backs out of the backfield. You're going to tell me that their linebackers are going to be able to cover him coming out of the backfield, come out and 12 personnel, and have Dylan be one of the receivers lining up in the backfield with DJ and then have him motion out? You're telling me that a linebacker is going to be able to cover him one-on-one? Absolutely not. So, I mean, there's going to be some stuff. I just feel there's going to be some stuff that we haven't seen that's going to come out this week. But, yeah, he's going to be highly motivated, Fitz, to do some things against Colorado.
I agree.
Yeah, with the way you guys reacted to the question, I think I might have misunderstood it but the what's up, like Dylan Edwards, he has gotten more touches, and you continue to see that. So, yeah, I think the biggest thing, man, like going up against Colorado, like the read option, like get those defenders to bite on Dylan Edwards and then let Avery keep it, or fake a slip screen and then have somebody else, you know what I mean? They're those guys, I would assume, are going to be trying to make the big play on stopping Dylan Edwards, right? Because they're going to know that this game means more for him, right? And obviously everything, the past, right? Like so using him as a decoy is what I'm getting at here is going to be just extra important, as it always is important, but it's going to be extra important in this game.
And keep in mind, half the roster didn't play with Dylan Edwards.
That's true.
I mean, he's been gone less than a season, and the roster is overturned greatly at Colorado.
Yeah, I feel like it's a motivation just because it's your former team. But also a little motivation because look, I don't think he felt like he was used properly. That's all.
Yeah, he wasn't.
If used properly at Kansas State, his effectiveness, we've seen it. And I think he just wants to go out and prove that. That's all. Good for him.
Real quick, with Dylan Fitz, you mentioned 8 carries and he had 20 yards. Like
22.
I could care less about that. I am happy that he got more touches. We've got no reason to believe he's going to put up, 2 yards a carry ever again. You know what I mean? So glad to see it.
Yep.
Last question of the first half is from Key Cat. We had 23 first downs against Oklahoma State. Only 3 came on third downs, which was 3 of 12. Is our low third down efficiency a symptom of poor play calling or poor execution?
I'd have to go back and look at every third down. As Gills knows darn well, there was a third down in the second half where I about lost my mind when it was 3rd and 1. They can't stop the run, and we decided to throw a shallow cross, and it wasn't open. I mean, he just had to throw it away. Just run the ball. I mean, and then we had to, K-State punted, and just run the ball, man.
Yeah.
As soon as that play developed, Gills, I started to lose it, didn't I? I mean, it was like, what are you doing here? So yeah, there, as a play caller, you're never going to be always right. If that play works, he looks brilliant, because I don't even know who it was, Keegan maybe. If he had a step on his guy, they'd cleared out that whole side. He was going to run. He was going to go a while. So I think that the play call itself could have worked, but I just feel it would have been more effective just to pick up the first down with, Avery or DJ or someone. But maybe they were loaded up and knew that was coming and covered both. I don't know. I was surprised to see that number, to be honest, when K-State's offense was that efficient and yet that bad on third down. It goes to show you that even when they're really good, they can be better. I mean, there's a lot more for this offense. They started a little bit slow. They had the turnover. Look, when they get going, it's a frightening sight. And so they weren't even fully going, apparently, because they weren't converting third downs.
Right. Well, and here's one stat. First of all, 3 for 12 is awful. Let's just call it what it is. But they also went for it twice on fourth down and got it. So that's something that me and Wally talked about, on the post game is, maybe they ran it on third down a couple of times to get closer so they could get it. So then now you say, okay, they're 3 for 10. Well, 3 for 10 is awful too. So, they just have to get better on third down. That's all. Whatever the case may be, play calling, whatever, they just have to be better on third down because, again, we talking about road games. Going on the road and being 3 for 10 on third down is not a recipe to win a football game. Got to be able to extend drives.
Yeah, we'd have to go and do a deep dive on it, but your third down, if you're successful on first and second downs, that if that third down's manageable, that that obviously has a big impact on it. So again, I don't know if that's maybe the root cause or not, but there's a huge difference obviously in the chances of you converting on 3rd and 8 versus 3rd and 2.
Absolutely.
That might be a good little project for me this weekend. I might go back and look at that game on the third downs and see what they were doing, what they were running. And if I was really motivated, I'd do it for all the games, but I want to stare in the camera right now and let everyone know I'm not that motivated. Okay. It's my off weekend. I'm going to be off. But I'll do something. I'll probably just text Gil's funny GIFs and stuff. That's probably what my weekend will be comprised of. Because I miss him. When I don't get to sit by him on Saturdays, it gets lonely in my heart. Very, very.
Come over and watch some games at the Fitzgerald household.
That'd be sweet. That's it for the first half of the Powercat podcast. On the other side, we will continue our discussion of Kansas State sports as I try to find my ad here. And, of course, we're sponsored by the Fridge Wholesale Liquor. We appreciate them very much. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
Please visit the Fridge Wholesale Liquor, located at the corner of Claflin and Westport Road in Manhattan, Kansas.
Welcome back to the show. Let's return to the Cats and Dogs studio.
I love the drums. The drums are so nice. That people don't know this. That isn't stock music. Ryan Gilbert actually played those drums. He's very talented.
I played the drums actually.
Did you really?
So did I.
On God. Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
We got 2 drummers in the house.
Yeah, I sure did. I think my mom still has my snare drum that I got when I was in the 6th grade.
Oh, I'm surprised Mom kept that. I bet you that thing drove her nuts.
Absolutely.
But I will say this. I have no musical talent. When I was in college, I focused all of my skill set on drinking. And I think music would have taken away from that. And I'm really good at one thing and not at the other. So I focused on my strengths. And it turns out I can BS too. That's another strength. And that's why we're having this Powercat podcast right now, sponsored by the Fridge Wholesale Liquor. See how I brought those things together? See, that's Gills, that's big time. It's just like one. It brought it together as one. My drinking, the podcast, the sponsor. Thank you to the Fridge. Let's get going again with your questions from Wabash Station. Ryan Gilbert, speak now.
Real quick, musical talents. Every game, pretty much every game, whether it's the Wabash, national anthem, you name it, Fitz is humming along to it and including my name in his own lyrics. It's hard to explain, but you have musical talent, Fitz. You just don't know it.
I have this weird thing where I like to sing along with the national anthem, but use it to ridicule one of my employees. Riley Gates went through this. Zach never went through it because Zach was on the field.
Yeah.
He's not with me during the national anthem. So now I focus all of my singing talents and ridiculing Ryan Gilbert. It's a gift. I share the gift.
Onward we go.
Yes.
From Fullest Nelson, did Deuce Vaughn help DJ Giddens become a better running back, talking through different looks on the field? If so, with as quiet as DJ is, do you think he's helping Dylan Edwards improve his game?
Oh, that was a double whammy. Yeah, the first answer is yes. DJ has credited Deuce for a lot of what he learned about moves. I mean, he's got a spin move that he didn't have before, learning it from Deuce, and he uses it with great effect at times. I've seen, was it Tulane? He did back-to-back spins, and I was like, I'd fall over. But yeah, there's no doubt Deuce had a notable impact on DJ's repertoire of moves. And maybe that is helping with Dylan. I think the coaches have been a little surprised how effective Dylan can be between the tackles. They thought he was more of an edge guy. But I think Dylan has a pretty good idea who he is as a running back anyhow. So I don't know if there's that much cross-pollinization there. But I do know this. I guess he's got two dudes that can take it to the house at any moment. And that's a pretty good running back rotation. Look, I think Joe Jackson might be able to do it too. He's come pretty close. So I think the running back room's a really solid part of this team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you learn from Deuce. He's gotten better. I mean, you can just tell. Just look at him as a freshman running the football to now. He's a totally different guy. And a lot of that's confidence, but a lot of it is just he got better. And that's exactly what you want. You want guys getting better, come up through your program, you develop them, and here he is. Great running back. Probably doing the same. And him and Dylan are probably, kind of learning from each other too. So I think that goes a long way, talking to each other. It's a great running back room, but it's a good locker room. And that's the thing. When you have a good locker room, all this stuff you can learn and you can talk. Yeah, I want to play a little bit more than the guy that maybe is ahead of me or next to me, whatever the case may be. But when you have that locker room, you can learn and you can talk about stuff to help, because ultimately you still just want to win. And I think that's the big thing with this locker room.
This is, with Avery Johnson and the playbook being not revealed early on in the year, we all got frustrated with it, sure, but got to remember that is a true sophomore quarterback, right? So you can't just throw everything on him at once, and that's what's key with DJ Giddens early on in his career. He wasn't necessarily asked to do a whole lot because of such a nice playmaker in Deuce Vaughn being on the field, or being in the running back room at the same time, and so you were kind of able to ease DJ Giddens in here and in there in some situations and get him comfortable, right? If you just put it all on him at once, who knows if DJ Giddens develops the way that he has. And so, of course, Deuce Vaughn has been I'm sure a leader, gave him so much advice, and DJ learned from him. Absolutely. But when you look at the development, DJ was able to kind of ease into things, and that doesn't happen if Deuce Vaughn is not a superstar.
True. Very true.
Big B, if you were blocking, would you rather block for a guy like Deuce or Dylan that's elusive and speedy, or is it easier to block for a guy like DJ that's just kind of not downhill, but you know what I mean?
I don't know. First off, I don't know if you guys hear that noise. I apologize. That's what I went on mute, because they get the tornado sirens. They're testing them, and it's literally 2 houses down, and it is super. Fitz, you thought it was loud. They were banging on your roof. It sounds like it is right outside my window.
I barely hear it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, man, barely. It is loud. But as far as, what? I don't think it mattered that much. I know people always say that, well, I don't like blocking for quarterbacks that get outside the pocket or running backs that do things that you don't expect. But the thing is, just go block the guy, and they are reading you anyway. So wherever you go, you learn, just take that guy, and a good running back's going to read you and go the other way no matter what. So, and that's how you were taught. Look, I'll admit this, at Coffeyville, the late, great Skip Foster, taught us, just go head up a guy when you're out in space. Good running backs are going to block off of you. Now, if the guy goes one way, take them that way. Your running back's going to go the other way. I go, that's how it works. So, yeah, it really wouldn't matter. I'll be honest with you, because those guys are really good and they're good enough to understand blocking. So just go out there, block the guy. A lot of times the defender will take you where you need to go, and the back's going to cut off of you anyway.
Good stuff.
Good stuff indeed, Big B. That's why we have you on, right?
Yes. He
From
knows ball.
Donnie. Say what?
He knows ball.
He does. We don't. We do not know ball. We're BSing, aren't we? But Donnie Cat, back to the wide receivers, wants to know, Oklahoma State seems to always have NFL talent in the wide receiver room. What do we have to do to start recruiting comparable talent?
Oh, boy. We need Ryan Wallace right now. We need
Right.
him right now. K-State passed on Brennan Presley.
Yes, they did. I remember that. He's an NFL guy too. Let's not kid ourselves. He's an NFL guy.
The guy they took, I don't even recognize his name. He presented out. So, I mean, coaches make mistakes in valuations, and that was certainly one of them. I think he was hoping to come to K-State. They didn't offer. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. But they've also used him exceptionally well.
Mm-hmm.
You can make an argument that, are the receivers bad, or is this offense not receiver friendly? And, wasn't in earlier forms, and it's not now. I don't know. I don't think it's the talent. Keegan Johnson can play. Jace Brown can play.
Mm-hmm.
Jaden Jackson, when he's locked in, he was pretty good at times on Saturday. So they've got some dudes that can play. I know that, but they just don't put up the numbers, and I find that frustrating. And I don't know if it's something you can solve in the middle of a season. I think it's something they really need to dig into and self-evaluate how they're using their receivers and see if they're doing something that can be more effective if done differently. But yeah, Presley is a sore spot with Ryan Wallace. He was like, this guy's good. He's good. You got to take him. And no, they passed.
Look, we can be honest. The scheme is not wide receiver friendly. It's just not. So you want to get better wide receivers, you better do something differently in your offensive scheme, because you're not going to get guys that are just going to be beaten down the door as a wide receiver, top big time guys. You're just not going to get that. I'll go until you make it friendly. K-State, I mean, you could just go look at the route tree as far as what they do. Maybe they get the half of it. I don't know. But they got to do more of it. And they got to throw the ball down the field, throw it down the middle of the field, utilize that kind of stuff. And until you do, I mean, you're not going to be looking at, these big time guys. I'm not saying you're not going to get anybody every now and then. You will, because it happens, because we're a really, really good program. I said, but you're not going to get guys consistently like Oklahoma State does, because Oklahoma State, they feature those guys. And not only do they feature those guys get featured, and then they go on and have successful pro careers. That's the difference. Until we have some success like that, it makes it difficult. I know we don't like to talk about maybe the pros and all that kind of stuff, but that matters, people. It really does to recruits. It matters. Are you going to develop me into being into an NFL? Heck, Deion Sanders is trying to sell his entire program on going to the NFL. That's his whole thing. So it really does matter in today's day and age. It's a difference maker.
And keep in mind also, Iowa State's top receiver was a recruiting miss for Kansas State. I think they wanted him, but they didn't win that battle.
Didn't win, right.
But, man, the talent's there. They just got to do a better job of picking it or recruiting it. And then, as Big B says, they've got to alter their passing schemes in the offseason. They have to revisit that.
Yeah, you're right, Fitz. You can't do that in mid-season. Like, even in this bye week, you can't alter what you're doing. You can come up with a couple of plays here and there, right, but you can't alter what you're doing. That's an off-season thing. Yeah, basically a January through spring. That's when you do it.
Yep.
Not now.
Fitz, you ready?
Yeah.
Jalen Travis is according to Wally, right? That's who K-State took at wide receiver over Presley. Do you even remember that name?
I don't.
I don't mean either. Not really. So, yeah, Wally would be great on here to go off on that. But
he would. We could just turn off our mics and go get a
right?
snack. He would go to town.
Fill up on my water, yeah. But with Lincoln Cure, right? Like, I think it's great that all these tight ends, that entire room has caught touchdowns and stuff. Like, winning matters so much, right? Obviously, for players to come to your program, but these players are smart. They look at how Kansas State utilizes such players at the position, and so it's like an ongoing. Obviously with Lincoln Cure, I know you've kind of touched on that with your DD and stuff, Fitz, but like, obviously you want to keep tabs on them and keep them in check. But also, I'm sure Lincoln is peeking at how the tight ends have been used at Kansas State, right? I'm sure wide receivers that are juniors and seniors in high school are looking at the lack of production or the lack of usage is probably more. Big B, you mentioned it. Maybe they're not bad wide receivers; they're just not involved much. And so, guys want to play at the end of the day, and so they're going to go where they can play. Obviously, they want a winning program, but it'll start to snowball. If you get like a good season on your wideouts, that'll lead to a good recruiting class, and then it just kind of goes from there, right? So winning is the number one thing that helps that. But Big B, you mentioned it. Like, you cannot you can't change stuff in the middle of the year. You just can't.
Yeah.
Next question is from KSU David. Why do we leave our ones in so late in a lopsided game? I was really concerned about Avery Johnson, but then Uso got hurt. Glad Roberson got a series, but seemed late.
I kind of agree, but also keep in mind, Avery's still learning. I mean, he needs snaps. But you're right. As for coaches that are so paranoid about him getting hurt, it is kind of odd they left him in. Uso's the backup, folks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the simple truth. I know he plays pretty much equal snaps, but and part of that is because he's on the field during these times. He's on the field with the number twos when they're in, and they don't have the depth there. They probably should have had a third guy in, but luckily they're going to dodge that bullet. It sounds like he'll be back sooner rather than later. There was no tear, just probably a really bad sprain. They first feared it was the ACL, wasn't. Then they were concerned maybe it was MCL, and apparently it wasn't, or it's just sprained and not torn, because he could be back for Colorado. We don't know yet, but it's entirely possible. He's shut down this week, and then they'll see next week what he's got. So they might have dodged a bullet there, but you're right. I mean, they probably did leave some guys in a little bit too long, but as far as Avery goes, they're trying to get him as many snaps as possible. You've heard Coach Kleiman talk about it. This offense isn't producing a lot of snaps. The way they're playing, they're right around 60 a game, and they're trying to get him on the field as much as possible, because the more he sees, he just picks it up. He learns from what he's done wrong and gets better.
I mean, I agree with what you're saying. My only problem is, what kind of snaps, quality snaps, is he getting at 43-13? That's my only thing, is when you're up by that much, what's the point? Again, I get the snap issue, because you do need them out there, but at the same time, I assume all you're going to do is turn around and hand the ball off. So if you are, what kind of quality snap is that? And it's got to be an opportunity to get younger guys on the field and get guys that haven't played, to get them out there. 5 minutes to go, you're up 30. I think you're in good shape at that point. I would hope you're in good shape at that point. Get some other guys on the field, especially with the red shirt rules the way that they are. You get 4 games, let some guys get out there and, get a sweat going and say they were in the football game. It means a lot to a lot of different people sometimes. I was always a big fan of that. Coach Snyder was pretty good about that. Again, I know I always go back to, back in the day, but Coach Snyder was always pretty good about getting a lot of guys on the field when it was time for them to get on the field. And a lot of coaches do that. So I agree with the question. Not sure I like that we've got starters, and even USA. Look, there's no reason for him to be out there up that much. They could have put somebody else in. Oklahoma State wasn't winning that football game. I know he's the backup, but Fitz, you mentioned it. He's getting the same number of snaps. So if he's getting the same number of snaps, while he may not start the game, he's still playing a sufficient amount of the game. That's a guy you're counting on. That's not a guy that needs to be in the game up 43-13. It's just not.
Gills, the other side of that is they're very worried about Avery getting injured, because there is a significant drop off between him and his backups. So I understand that, but you probably should get them in the game a little bit. I mean, if you're really worried about him, get him out on the field and get him exposed to it, and maybe they'll get better. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting. Robertson was the guy that came in this week.
And before you go, Gills, remember they did take him out of BYU when we were getting our head beaten in. They did take Avery out, and there was almost a full fourth quarter to go in that game, and they took him out of the game. So if you're going to do it then, why aren't you doing it when we're up? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I'll really add, I think KSU David 61 is like the root of this question. This was not, I think it was Arizona or UT Martin. Like, but it's year after year. It's like, okay, you get the sense that the ones or the starters are in for like an extra series too long, too late, right? When the game is clearly like been decided. You know, this you could go back and look at year after year in early fourth quarters, or when it's a 30-40 point game. I think Kleiman has a tendency to kind of do this. And so I think that's kind of where this is stemming from. So I don't disagree with anything you guys said. I mean, yeah, like Fitz, you gotta pick one side or the other. Like, okay, if you're gonna cut Avery loose, do that. And then once the game's decided, then get him off the field, get the backups in so that they can get those reps. Because if you're cutting Avery loose, chances of getting hurt go up. But if you want to be conservative with Avery, not have him run the ball a whole lot, then the backup conversation doesn't matter nearly as much, because Avery is much less likely to get hurt. So, you know, the staff kind of has to pick one side or the other. If you're getting blown out in Provo, okay, if you're going to take Avery out early, then you have to do that in a blowout win at home. So pick one side or the other. I'm with you guys.
Yes.
Okay. Last questions of the podcast here from Kale Clausen 4. What do you guys think ends up happening with the newly revived Pac-12? And from 3G Wildcat, figured we can kind of just intertwine this all into one. Why can't the Big Ten and SEC just let us enjoy a college football season?
I'll go Pac-12 first. Pac-8. This is bizarre. They're at 7 football programs. They added Gonzaga for basketball. Why? I mean, if you're going to do that, add St. Mary's too. You know, that bring in another school so you're at least balanced. But they're still shopping for an 8th football school. They have to have it to be a conference. And it sounds like UConn was invited for football and they didn't want to do it, which I don't blame them. I don't think that was a solution. I don't know what they're trying to achieve at this point. I don't they seem to be passing on schools that would help them. But you know, maybe other schools just don't want to be a part of it. I'm a little baffled by that whole thing. And let's be honest, that's not going to be a power conference. It's not going to be an autonomous conference. It won't get that standing back just because it's going to be substantially weaker. They're not adding a few non-power programs. They're adding a significant amount of them that everyone else has passed on. So I don't get that. As for the Big Ten and SEC, I'm really exhausted by them. I mean, I respect the SEC. I think the SEC is the best football conference, but the Big Ten is, their top teams might match up, but they're miles behind in depth. They want 4 spots each in the playoff. Why are you afraid to prove it on the field? Why do you need reservations when you're so good you'll load the field anyhow? Because you know you're not. You know you need the guarantee to make sure you have your teams in. It's cowardly. If I'm them, I say, look, let's just give us each one and we'll prove it on the field. We'll go beat people. And now they're trying to only schedule each other so they get this incestuous thing that everyone else has weaker schedules because you don't play them. I don't get it. I don't understand why they're trying. They seem to be focused on destroying college football as we've known it. Greed is an ugly thing, and we're seeing it blown up. It's not good enough that they will get 4 teams each in the playoff. They got to have it in writing. It's not good enough that they get high ratings and they're already perceived as the 2 best conferences. They need to destroy all other conferences. I'm not sure what the end purpose is here, and I'll have a daily delivery this weekend on this very topic. So now I have to think of something new to say. Jeez, this job's impossible.
Yeah, I'll start with the SEC and the Big Ten. Fitz, you're 1,000,000% right. Big Ten, not good enough, not on the same level that the SEC. You know how I feel, guys. I've said it many, many times that both of them are super top heavy. The Big Ten, extremely top heavy, and the drop off is like jumping off of a cliff. And I don't want to hear any justification or anything other than that. That's exactly what it is. It's like jumping off of a cliff. And that's just it. Having said all of that, I get why they're doing it. Fitz, you mentioned it. It's greed, 100% greed. And if they're going to be able to get away with it, look, we can say we don't like it, but if I could get away with it, if I'm both of them, I'll probably do it. Now, why they're doing it in the middle of football season, I just don't understand. To me, that's my issue. I love the question. Why can't you just let us enjoy this? Nothing is going to change between now and the end of the football season. I don't care what you agree to. Nothing is going to change. So why do we even need to hear about it? You got all off season to deal with it. Deal with it then. It's just silly. And I get it. They can't meet anywhere without people finding out. So that's why they have to come out and leak it that they're meeting and doing all this. Because if they do, people are going to find out about it anyway, and it's going to leak. So I get that part of it, but it's just stupid. Fitz, you're right. They're not wanting to play because they won't play these other schools, and they'll say, well, your stadium's not big enough. The old K-State thing, your stadium's not big enough, so we don't want to do a home and home. It's not fair. Okay, we'll do a neutral site with you. Well, we don't want to do a neutral site, and I'm like, it's always the same thing with these schools. It's exhausting. It's nauseating. I'm just tired of it. And it's just ridiculous, just stupidity. But it's basically them trying to flex their muscles. That's all that this is, them flexing their muscles. As far as the Pac-10 is concerned, I don't understand the move. Well, I take that back. I do understand the move because if they're trying to make it more of a basketball-centric conference. If that's the move, then I understand. But too bad you couldn't get UConn because that would have made it even more exciting. But me and Fitz, we talked about this yesterday. There's no way that UConn is leaving the Big East to go to the Pac-10, Pac-12, whatever you want to call it, for basketball. And definitely, for football, it just doesn't make any sense unless the conference is going to pay for all your travel, which they weren't going to do. So it doesn't make any sense. I don't know what they're trying to do. I get it. I just feel bad for Washington State and Oregon State. That they don't deserve to be in that conference. They don't. It stinks the way that it all played out, and you can blame your commissioner for that. But they deserve to be somewhere else, and now they're stuck with where they're stuck. But I'll be honest with you, 2.5 years ago, that was Kansas State that was going to be stuck. So while I feel bad, I also feel fortunate. And I love Kansas State, and it is what it is. I'm glad we're not there.
Leadership matters.
Yeah.
I've got nothing to add, man. You guys killed it. You crushed it.
I truly wish, if we're going to have a massive change, that of a super league, this plan of 72 schools, which would be all inclusive of the current Power Four, Oregon State and Washington State and Notre Dame would all be included in that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you divide it up regionally. I think we'd see a reset on the conference structures.
Of course you would.
Because now you take football out of conference play, which I don't have a problem with. I really don't. This tribalism of conference play is annoying anyhow. And we're a big 12 cheerleader. We started a whole channel for the Big 12 because they were going to get shorted coverage. But I think taking football out and letting conferences reset and, maybe have a national committee that looks at the conferences and advises what would be best. Now, every school has a different self-interest, and maybe Arizona State wants something different. Maybe they don't want to be in their region with all their other sports. They play hockey, for heaven's sakes. But, still, if you could reset the Big 12 to be more about the region in which everyone exists, then it just makes a lot of sense. I mean, in fact, it makes sense to kind of have an entire Texas sports league. You're going to play baseball and track and volleyball and soccer in that league. So I don't know. I'm rambling. But changes are coming. The antitrust lawsuits against the Big Ten and SEC will be crippling.
Yep.
This is never going to happen, guys. You are going to get sued into oblivion for conspiring to destroy the businesses of others.
Yep.
Which is literally what you're doing. You're conspiring to crush the competition.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Nope.
Oh.
What is going to happen is we're going to end this podcast. Right? That was it, Gills, right? Okay. We're done. We're done with this podcast. We appreciate you listening. We're sorry it didn't hit the normal window of going up at midnight, but you'll have it. I'm putting this up as soon as I can get it produced and uploaded to YouTube. Why? Because I love you. That wasn't to Gills. That was to you and Big B. Gills, you're okay. We'll talk to you next week. We appreciate you watching, and we have lots of coverage coming next week to get you ready for the Cats and Buffaloes. God, that's good to say. I'm glad they're back.
This has been a GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.